and welcome into another episode of Plead Your Case. We got a lot of playoff football to get to in today's episode. First, talking about the national championship game that just wrapped up, the Ohio State Buckeyes winning their 9th national championship in program history. We'll break down that game and their season. We'll break down the NFL divisional round weekend that just wrapped up, upsets and the Chiefs continuing to dominate, and what we think is going to happen in the conference championship games, and then the return of our 5-and-5 mini segment with 2 new competitors. You know what to do. Sit back and relax. It's time to plead your case.
Hey there, sports fans. You're watching another episode of Waynesburg University Community Television's only national sports debate show, Plead Your Case. Whether you're a diehard fan or a casual observer, get ready to join us every week as we dive deep into current pressing sports topics. Our panelists dissect every angle, every scenario, and every statistic to influence their fiery takes.
What has he done without Tom Brady?
And spirited arguments.
No, listen, Bowtie. Have you ever played Foursquare? No, you were too old to play Foursquare.
There will be no argument unexplored, and every take will be under review.
After reviewing the play...
Here in the Waynesburg University Communication Department, we believe in heated debates with a touch of friendly competition, which is why we also have a fresh 5-and-5 mini segment that you won't want to miss.
I don't think a pitcher is breaking Cy Young's wins record of 511.
You Google America's team and what do you get? You get the dollar.
So sit back, relax, and get ready for some serious sports chat. It is time to plead your case.
And welcome into this first episode of Plead Your Case in the 2025 spring semester. I'm your host, Michael McKenzie, joined by my 2 panelists, Luke Andrusick and Mark Grove to my left. We're talking a lot of playoff football here today, guys. And I know the guy sitting in the middle of the table is just as happy as I am right now because the team just won a national championship.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get into that national championship right now. Ohio State 34, Notre Dame 23. I want to start with Luke. You were the man rooting for the Buckeyes. You were one of the guys rooting for the Buckeyes last night. Just give me some perspective. How'd that game go? How did Notre Dame, they kind of came back late, made it a game, but Ohio State just in the end a little too much.
Yeah, I just got to throw on the Buckeye necklace. It was a rough start, not something you really like to see from the Buckeyes, because when that happens, that's the only way they get beat is if a team takes up a long amount of time and they don't let the Buckeyes have enough drives and enough time to go and score. So that first drive was 9 minutes and 45 seconds long. Both teams, I think the Buckeyes got 3 drives in the first half, where Notre Dame got 4, but their 4th drive was 1 play, and it was that little run just to run the clock out. So it started off not great. Then they scored on 4 consecutive drives, scored touchdowns on 4 consecutive drives, kicked that field goal, went up 31-7. I was feeling good. I posted, we're national champions. And then all of a sudden the defense started to slip away, and they scored 2 touchdowns. Jaden Greathouse had a really good game for Notre Dame last night. You got to give him a shout out. But in the end, you can't leave Jeremiah Smith one-on-one with a corner. I mean, come on that last play.
That's not
Can't
smart.
do it. Can't do it. What about you, Mark?
I really wasn't rooting for anybody. I didn't want to see Ohio State win, but I didn't want to see Notre Dame win either, so I was kind of torn. But I just was watching the game, and after Riley Leonard scored that touchdown, I was like, yeah, he's beaten it. It really showed in the next few drives is that he was just exhausted. You can't have your quarterback running 17 times where you have a running back in Julian Love that, granted, he did have that knee injury, but they really didn't have a running game, which that was their bread and butter going all through the playoffs. And so the score really didn't do the game justice. After that first drive, Ohio State kicked in Notre Dame's teeth all the way up until the very end. But yeah, it was just a one-sided, lopsided game for the Buckeyes.
Now, I want to ask Mark first here, your perspective on this, just as a non-Ohio State fan, just a guy who watches college football. Ryan Day, first career national championship. A lot of narratives surrounding him, people pounding the table for him to be fired. He can't win the national championship, get the job done. He's not the right man for the Buckeyes. How big do you think the apology should be, or how big of an apology do you think he's owed after all those narratives that were surrounding him on November 30th after he lost to Michigan?
I think there's a very big apology that needs to be extended out to Ryan Day. But also on the other side is since Ohio State lost to Michigan, I think that gave them extra kind of wanting that national championship more, going out, not making the Big Ten championship game. That kind of made them have a bigger push in when they got into later games against Tennessee, Texas, and then the national championship. But I think Ryan Day now should have a significantly larger leash after the Michigan game. I wasn't sure what they would do with him if they exited first round. Definitely he would get fired, but now he should be owed a big apology, and they shouldn't be harping on him for at least 2 to 3 years.
Now, Luke, how big of an apology do we give Ryan Day? Because I know that the two of us had conversations like similar to the quote lunatic fringe, as Kirk Herbstreit refers to it, the people that wanted Ryan Day gone. We were on that bandwagon for a little bit. So how big of an apology do we give?
I've been on it since they lost to Georgia 2 years ago in the semifinals, because if they won that game, which they should have won, in my opinion, they had an easy national championship because they were playing TCU the next week. After Oregon this year, I know we went on the radio and talked about how many big games does Ryan Day have to lose in order for him to be gone. With the new AD coming in, I thought, maybe if he loses, if he doesn't win the national championship, he's gone.
Yeah.
But after this, you beat 4 top 10 teams, or you beat 3 top 10 teams in the playoff and Tennessee. How can you? I apologize.
I believe Tennessee was ranked in the top 10.
Were they?
They were number 7 on the playoff rankings. Ended the season number 10. Last AP polls just released earlier today.
I have to apologize, Ryan Day. I made a big rant video after the Michigan loss.
I did too.
And I have to apologize. Used some explicit language in that video.
I didn't go that far.
I apologize, but I can't tell you how happy I was for him. Even I talk crap on him all the time, and I couldn't tell you how happy I was for him, because how much scrutiny he goes through. Any of those blue blood college football playoff head coaches, they go through so much scrutiny, because it's not like the NFL where you can have a bad year, you're gonna fluctuate. These blue blood teams are expected to be good every year. Their goal is to win the national championship every single year, and when you don't do that and you lose to your rival 4 years in a row, and that is something that you do not want to do as a Buckeyes fan. You don't want to lose to Michigan, and Michigan was sitting on the couch last night watching that game, so I feel a bit better about that. But I'm sorry, Ryan Day. That's all I have to say.
I will extend an apology to Ryan Day 100%. I did last night, and I'm going to do so as long as I need to. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about Marcus Freeman, though. 3rd year as Notre Dame's head coach, a first-time head coach. This is his first head coaching job in the collegiate level. Took his team to a national championship. Ran through the 12-team playoff, beat Indiana, beat Georgia, a team that had started to cement itself as the next dynasty in college football. They knock off Georgia. Then they go beat Penn State. A big win for the program. Big season for Notre Dame, especially coming off that Northern Illinois loss. Do we think he makes it back to this stage? And if the answer is yes, how soon do you think that is?
Yeah, I saw too much Marcus Freeman slander on X after the game last night, calling him, the college football version of Mike Tomlin. I know that hurts your guys' feelings. But the difference is, Marcus Freeman, he's a 3rd-year coach, as you mentioned. He was the first African-American head coach, I think, to make it to a national championship. And 3 years, he's young. This Notre Dame team is bringing back a lot of pieces next year. They're bringing back Jeremiah Love. Not quite sure what the quarterback position is going to look like for them, which is very important. But again, Notre Dame went through the gauntlet like Ohio State did. But Ohio State is one of the best rosters of all time ever seen in college football. Yeah. That roster right there was insane. Notre Dame's going to be back at it. I wouldn't be surprised if they're back in the national championship game next year.
I agree. I think Marcus Freeman is going to be a great college football coach, and I think he'll stick with Notre Dame for the extended future, and I think Notre Dame will really cement themselves as perennial contenders here in the college football playoff. So I don't think Marcus Freeman's going away. His brand is just going to grow bigger and bigger and have more recruits come in, because he can go down a list of, this is what all I did. Young coach, doesn't seem like he's going to jump ship like some of these other coaches. But it's just great to see a guy who really deserves it and really waited his turn behind Brian Kelly and being rewarded.
All right, now the playoff, the first 12-team playoff in the books now after the national championship. There's been a lot of complaints about the seeding structure, giving teams like Boise State from the group of 5 that lost the game, giving them a first-round bye, giving Arizona State, a 2-loss team from the Big 12, a first-round bye, giving an auto bid to a 3-loss Clemson team from a weak ACC. Do you guys think any changes need to come to the 12-team format? Did you think it was too many teams, or should the seating structure change? Or are you guys completely fine with the way it's structured right now?
Oh, you want to go first, Mark?
Yeah, I'll go. I mean, I thought it was pretty fine. It just shows Ohio State wasn't a top 4 team, and they ran all the way to the national championship. So, that seeding thing, yes, there's rest versus rust, with Oregon, or say Texas narrowly escaping Arizona State. But it's just, I think they have a good plan in place, but also you do see the teams like the Clemsons or the Boise States, where there's could be some years that an offshoot team like Boise State or SMU gets in and they don't really do much. But I think it's more of a program builder if you do get into the college football playoff, and then you'll have some teams like Ohio State, no matter where they're seated, they'll go deep in the playoff.
Yeah, I personally liked it as well. I mean, I'm not just saying this because Ohio State won and it favored us, but you could get so many insane matchups in this bracket that you couldn't get in the 14 bracket. You couldn't get in the BCS Bowl era. Just imagine down the line if you see. I mean, we could have saw it this year. We could have saw a big rivalry between Ohio State and Penn State in the national championship. You don't get that in the 14 bracket really, because they play each other, and one of those teams is going to lose. Probably Penn State, but they're not going to make it. They never made it to that 4-team, I don't believe. Did they make it once?
Penn State did not.
Yeah, they did not make it to the 4-team
playoff.
College football playoff. I like it. I think the seeding does need to be fixed. I don't like that. I think it, as much as I hate to say it, Boise State was ranked higher than Clemson, and the rules is the top 4 seeds are the top 4, the highest ranked conference champions. I mean, I think it's got to be the top four conferences. So the winner of the Big Ten, winner of the ACC, winner of the Big 12, and the winner of the SEC. The Pac-12, we'll see how that goes. I don't think that's going to go back to a Power 5 conference just because
not
of the
right
teams
away,
in it.
least,
Yeah,
I wouldn't think.
They need to fix the seedings. What do you think about that?
What I'll say as we wrap up this segment is I do not think automatic buys should be given to conference champions.
Yeah.
Conference champions, I'm not mad with giving them an automatic bid to the playoff, but giving Arizona State an automatic bye, I don't like that. I think the buys should go to the top 4 teams in the rankings. Notre Dame was the number 4 team in the country by the last college football playoff rankings.
Yeah.
I think they should have gotten a bye.
Yeah, that's the thing about Notre Dame too, is they could never get a first round bye because they don't play in the conference championship.
Correct,
game.
they're not in the conference.
I mean, if they're going to keep this strategy, I could see. I mean, I don't think it'll happen, but I could see Notre Dame joining the ACC maybe and trying.
I think we're. This is just personal. I think we're a while away from Notre Dame joining a conference.
Yeah.
But Ohio State national champions. That's going to do it for our national championship recap. When we come back, Vinny and Chase join me on the desk for our 5 and 5 mini segment. We're back here on Plead Your Case, and it's time for our 5 and 5 mini segment. We give 2 panelists 5 topics. They each get 30 seconds to state their piece. I will determine a winner of each debate, and whoever has the most wins at the end will be moving on and winning the mini segment. So, time to introduce our panelists, Chase and Vinny. Guys going head to head. You guys ready for this?
Oh yeah.
All right, we're going to start off. Did you guys decide who gets to go first?
No, we did not.
You want to do rock, paper, scissors? Just do it right now?
Let's go.
All right, best of 3, by the way. That's how it always goes. Ooh, Chase gets to go first. He wins. All right, so you'll go first. Again, you guys each get 30 seconds to state your piece, and it's completely up to me who wins. So I can't tell you what kind of mood I'm into. Oh, I'm in a great mood because Ohio State won, but we're not talking about Ohio State right now. We just talked about that. First off, our first topic: which conference in the NFL was better this year, the AFC or the NFC? Chase, you get to go first.
Yeah. So the NFC has been the better conference this year. Strictly speaking, they have had 143 wins to 129 losses this season, while the AFC has been the exact opposite, 129 wins and 143 losses. Furthermore, 4 AFC teams are picking in the top 5, with only one NFC obviously picking in that top 5. And the NFC has 8 10-win teams, while the AFC only has 7. So I think clearly the NFC has been the better overall conference this season.
All right, that's it. Vinny, what do you have for the
overall, statistically wise, I said NFC as well. However, on the statistic of just watching it, I took AFC. With the AFC featuring Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, I mean, I'm not a fan, but Kansas City and the Chiefs, they're pretty dominant every year, and this year they're really dominant. And I feel like the offenses are going to take throughout the playoffs, and AFC will take it in the Super Bowl this year.
All right, first one in the books. Now, Vinny, you'll get to go first this time. We'll go back and forth between who gets to go first in each debate. Second one we have, what's the biggest factor for playoff success, coaching or talent?
I'm definitely going coaching. If you get a team like the Kansas City Chiefs or the New England Patriots a few years back, if you go and tied at halftime with a good coach like Bill Belichick or Andy Reid, or even the Lions lost, but I would say Dan Campbell, it's hard to beat a team with a good coach coming out in the second half who develops really good game plans, and I think that's the reason why coaching is better than talent in the playoffs.
All right, Chase?
Yeah, I actually think the opposite. I think talent over coaching, in my opinion, because it goes as far even as quarterback over coaching. Look at the recent quarterbacks who have won the Super Bowl. We're looking at Mahomes, Stafford, Brady, and Mahomes. These quarterbacks are elite. That's not saying their coaching hasn't helped. I think the coaching builds the team culture. However, the talent is what actually has to execute on that culture.
All right, that's 2 in the books. Chase, you get to go first now. Our next one, the NFL has been in the expanded playoffs for a few seasons now. The 7 seed has only won once, though. The added seed, the added team in the playoffs in each conference. Should the NFL go back to the 6 teams in each conference into the playoffs, or should they stick with the expanded format of 7 teams in each conference? Chase, you get to go first.
Yeah, so I definitely have the NFL sticking at 7 seeds. I think that first seed getting the only bye is huge. I think we really need to let that number 1 seed have the most value it physically can. And I also like the potential upset value of the 7 seed. I know it hasn't happened yet, but I'm hoping that soon in the next couple of seasons that we're going to start seeing the 7 seeds make some runs, because these 7 seeds have talent. They just haven't been able to put all the pieces together to go and make a run.
All right, Vinny?
I'm going to stay with the 6 seed statistically, just off of sustainability throughout the playoffs. You're getting the first seed that they get the first round bye, whereas with the 7 seed, there's also everybody wants that first seed bye, and everybody's starting their best player, so that could lead to a quarterback getting hurt in a game that didn't mean as much, where in the 6 seed conferences, you're sitting your guys that last game in order to make a deep run in the playoffs and stay healthy. So I'm staying with the 6 seed.
All right, back to Vinny. You're going to get to go first on number 4 of our 5 and 5. This one's more so opinionated. There's a lot more options here. It's not just one side or the other. What's the best Super Bowl party snack?
This is going to catch a lot of people by surprise. Give me peanuts. Not just regular crack the shell peanuts, the slow roasted and the sugary peanuts that you take a handful and you kind of can't help yourself but to go back for more. So they're pretty addictive, and I'll eat them all night. So I'm going them peanuts.
All right, peanuts. I did not think we were gonna have
Gotta
that one.
try.
That's
I didn't think we were gonna
I'll
have
bring
that one.
some here.
I can't say
the peanuts
I've
are
had
special.
peanuts recently.
All right, Chase, what do you
Yeah,
got?
for me, it's going to be buffalo chicken dip. I think having that spicy factor, some Frank's extra hot sauce. I'm a big spicy food guy. So if we mix up that buffalo chicken dip, we also put some celery in it. Adds a nice crunch to go along with the chip. Obviously, everybody loves tortilla chips. Everybody loves different forms of dip. But to me, buffalo chicken dip takes the cake as the best of all Super Bowl snacks.
All right, we're going to get down to our fifth now. Chase, you'll get to go first because you won the rock, paper, scissors at the beginning of this. Would you be on board with Tyreek Hill going back to the Chiefs next year? Now, that from the perspective of would it work out? Do you think it would?
I personally don't see any reason why the Chiefs should go back to Tyreek Hill. I think they have their own version of Tyreek Hill in Xavier Worthy. If we compare rookie seasons, Xavier Worthy, 59 catches, 638 yards, 6 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill's rookie season, 61 catches, 593 yards, and also 6 touchdowns. So they're two very similar players, with Xavier Worthy being faster on a combine speed. I think they need to go forward with their youth and maybe look for a veteran receiver in the free agency class. Someone like Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin.
All right. That's your 30. Vinny, do you agree with that? Or
I would have to disagree, honestly. I feel like although Tyreek Hill left Kansas City for money and not to win, didn't win, and now I'm assuming he wants more money. If I was the Chiefs, I would go back to him. He's a star athlete. He's a star receiver. He still is, even though he's getting older and more progression into the league. I think that could be a really successful snag for them as they maybe make a Super Bowl run this year. It could help them potentially a lot make another one next year.
All right, that's it for our 5 in 5 mini segment. With 3 debate wins, I'm going to say Chase. I think Chase wins this segment of 5 and 5. Those were some very healthy and great debates. That was one of the more, at least I thought out 5 and 5 mini segments we've had. So thank you too. That was a great debate, great segment. But Chase is going to come away with the victory in this version of 5 and 5 when we come back. Mark Grove, Luke Andrusik back on the desk with me to recap the divisional round of the NFL playoffs and predict the conference championships. Time for our last segment on this episode of Plead Your Case. We're talking the NFL playoffs. Divisional round just wrapped up, getting ready for the conference championship games. Let's recap the divisional round games first. Back joined again by Luke and Mark on the desk. First, I want to start NFC. The upset, the Commanders over the Lions. What was the shock factor for you guys of that game? Because I did not expect that at all.
I mean, the Commanders are just on fire. Their offense is firing on all cylinders. I mean, they have the pieces to do that. Jaden Daniels, I mean, is this the best rookie season we've seen? I know we said that about C.J. Stroud last season, but dude, this guy took his team to the conference championship game with a team that was not expected to do that. I don't think many people thought the Commanders would make the playoffs. Some people might have, but to go to the conference championship and beating the number 1 Detroit Lions at home in their biggest game in their franchise's history in a while. I mean, Jaden Daniels, that dude can play ball.
The biggest factor to me was Dan Campbell got beat at his own game. Like just going for so many consecutive 4th downs by Dan Quinn, it just shows me I've never seen this happen before with Dan Campbell. It was like he got beat by his own game and he really didn't know what to do. He had a lackluster defense, was basically playing guys off the practice squad. There was one defensive back who only played one defensive snap before that playoff game. So it's like the Lions, they really didn't collapse. They just had so many injuries on that defense. But the Commanders are playing with house money now. How will they do against the Eagles? That's yet to be seen. But I really like Jaden Daniels, and this further proves that some teams are just a quarterback away.
Yeah, and Jared Goff really went back to the form that we knew him with L.A. He threw 2 or 3 picks this past weekend.
Well, he threw 2, but Jameson Williams
threw that other one. Yeah, that was a questionable call. Ben Johnson obviously just got hired as the head coach of the Chicago Bears. He called that play down 10 in the 4th quarter with about 7 minutes left. A reverse throw with your receiver down 10 in the 4th quarter of a playoff game. not my favorite call that I've seen him make.
Listen, I'm fine with that play call, if I'm being honest.
You gotta throw it
it's
away.
just Jamison Williams has
all
got
people.
to be more situationally aware.
Jamison Williams, OH.
I mean, I don't really know if we can claim him because he didn't want to
Yeah.
be an Ohio State Buckeye. Moving on to the Eagles and the Rams. 205 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns for Saquon Barkley. Jalen Hurts banged up a little bit, but I want to talk about Saquon Barkley from this game. Is he single-handedly saving the value of the running back position?
I would say so. I mean, it's hard to get a guy of that value. You know, how often do you see a running back drafted in the top 5, the top 10 of the NFL draft? And Saquon was drafted at number 2 in that 2018 draft. We knew he was a special talent. The problem was he just played with the New York Giants for so many years, and now he's with a team that is actually competent.
Yeah.
They have a competent offensive line, and they have a good. A lot of people don't like Nick Sirianni, but I think he's a decent head coach. And the guys they got around him. I mean, that offense. You have a former Heisman winner at receiver. You have one of the best receivers in the league at A.J. Brown. You have a guy like Jalen Hurts at quarterback. You have so many options. How are you going to stop all of them? And Saquon Barkley just feeds off of that.
Yeah, I feel like with Saquon Barkley, he should be the MVP. Will he get the MVP? Probably not because he's a running back, but what he can do, he was good with the Giants, but he was rotting on that Giants team with Daniel Jones. And then you bring him over to Philly where they actually have good coaches, smart coaches, good play calling, and it just shows that superstar can kind of break a game open, can run for 200 yards a game in a given game, and it really shows how dynamic the Eagles have become with Devonta Smith and then A.J. Brown when he's not reading books on the sideline, but that'll be another thing. But it just shows like the Eagles, and along with their defense, they're a pick your poison type of team. How would you like to go down? Would you like to go down in the air raid, or would you like to be run over like a train with Saquon Barkley?
We haven't really seen many seasons like this from a running back.
No.
I mean, like I said,
2,000
Saquon Barkley
yards,
is
this is the 9th all-time season.
Derrick Henry is
anybody's
the
run
only
for.
other guy I could think about that carried a team on his back, carried an offense on his back to the conference championship game. So, I mean, Saquon is that guy.
Speaking of Derrick Henry and the Ravens,
Yeah.
let's move over to the AFC. Bills beat the Ravens in a thriller. We'll talk about the Bills a little more because they won the game. We'll talk about them when we get to our conference championship picks. I want to talk about Baltimore here. Yes, the mistakes from Mark Andrews magnified in this game tenfold. Drops the 2-point conversion to tie the game. Fumbles the ball with about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But there were still some mistakes by Lamar Jackson in this game. He fumbled the ball early. He threw an interception early. Wasn't his sharpest game by any means necessary. And it felt like the same script of every Baltimore playoff loss with Lamar.
Yeah.
He doesn't play his best game, makes some crucial mistakes, but in the end, his team's got a chance to win the game, and it's other players making mistakes. Is this team capable? Are they ever going to win a championship, win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson at quarterback?
That's a tough question.
Yeah, that's a fully loaded question.
It really felt like this year had to have been it.
Yeah.
The way they ended the season and the way that everything unfolded.
I mean, you finally get a guy to help, kind of like the Bills. They got James Cook. He's finally turning it up. But for the Ravens, they finally got Lamar, a guy that could help them take the load off of them. Lamar Jackson was the MVP, has been the MVP twice, because he played on an offense that he was centered around. And he's still centered around it, but Derrick Henry going for 2,000 yards almost, that really helps take the chain off his back, take the monkey off his back, and help the offense out. And then you did that this year, and you lose in the divisional round to the Bills. Not good, but I think they have the pieces, obviously. They have a guy, you don't really see scrub quarterbacks winning the Super Bowl, like maybe Nick Foles, but even then you had Carson Wentz that year, who was playing MVP caliber until he got hurt. They have the pieces, they have the coach that can do it. They've done it before with Harbaugh, and Jackson is the guy that could do it. But for right now, they're not winning the games they need to win.
Mark?
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's just like feels like Lamar's just hitting a wall. Like great regular season, and then he turns into Fumbles McGee, and it's like, come on, Lamar. Like I don't hate Lamar at all. I want him to like succeed, even though like I'm a Steelers fan, because he is such a special player in the NFL. But it's like frustrating to see the same thing happen every year. Lamar fumbles in the playoffs. It's like the Ravens, even though they got Derrick Henry, they got a good defense. They got a good defensive line with Justin Madubuike. It's just like, when are you going to just, they have good drafts. It's like, when are they going to go over that hump where the Ravens seem like they just lose every divisional round?
All right, let's get into the conference championship game preview and picks. Chiefs, Bills. Can the Bills finally get over the hump? Because watching that Texans game, the Chiefs did not play their best game by any means necessary. Houston played a very solid game, I felt like. Outgained Kansas City by over 100 yards, and Houston didn't turn the ball over, yet they still lost that game. And the result of the game didn't feel in doubt the entire second half to me. Can the Bills get past the Chiefs? Can they be the team that finally puts a stop to Mahomes, Reed, and company? Mark, we'll start with you.
Yes, I think that this is the year that the Buffalo Bills finally slay the dragon in the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs look very beatable. The only reason why they're not beatable is Steve Spagnuolo, who has been one of the better defensive coordinators in the league for the past five seasons. But I think Josh Allen is playing at an MVP caliber season, and he actually has a good running back in James Cook. And so I do think that the Bills will go to the Super Bowl.
Luke?
I like that you mentioned James Cook, and I think that will be something that changes it a little bit for the Buffalo Bills offense, and I think that's why Josh Allen's been able to play at such a high level this season. But on the other side of the field is the GOAT, Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes has made it to this will be his 7th straight AFC Championship game. He is 4-2 in AFC Championship games, 3-2 at home. The 2 losses coming from the Bengals and the Patriots in his first AFC Championship game. The Bills, however, they beat the Chiefs in Week 11. We saw that. It was a good game. Mahomes is 3-0 versus Buffalo in the playoffs, including the 2021 AFC Championship game where it was a close game. And, I mean, whoever wins this game, we know it's going to be a good game, though. Whatever the outcome is, we know it's going to be a good game. I don't bet against Mahomes. I'm taking the Chiefs to the championship.
I agree with you, Luke. I think I'm going to take the Chiefs, and I've said it all year. Somebody's got to knock off Kansas City for me to pick against them. Yeah. Hadn't happened yet. I want to go back just really quick to something you said. Do you think Mahomes is the GOAT
no,
over Tom Brady?
Not
okay.
Not
that's all the clarification
what if he wins?
I need.
What if he wins this year?
He's 2 in my opinion.
I think we got to. I'm going to wait until we get there. If they win the Super Bowl, then I'll get to the conversation at that point. I think that's kind of my take on Mahomes versus Brady.
I'm a big Mahomes guy.
Moving over to the NFC, it's Commanders, Eagles. Jalen Hurts is not going to be 100%. He's still going to be dealing with that knee injury to his left knee that really hampered him in the second half of that game against the Rams. But they still got Saquon Barkley playing at an all-time level. Does Jaden Daniels get Washington to the Super Bowl in a magical year, or are the Eagles going to make their second Super Bowl in the past 3 seasons? Luke, you get first pick here.
I really don't see it happening for the Commanders. I mean, they've had a great season. No one thought this was going to happen. No one thought if you told me the Commanders were going to be playing in the NFC Championship game this year, I would have told you were a nut job. You said like Hurts is dealing with that knee injury. He's not going to be 100%. But like we said in the prior, where we were going over the divisional round matchups, they have so many weapons on that offense. They got Saquon Barkley, who has rushed for 324 yards in this playoffs over 2 games. In Washington, does not have a good run defense. Yeah. They had the 30th run defense in the league this year, giving up 137.5 yards per game. They gave up 205 to Detroit, or 201 to Detroit, and 101 to Tampa Bay. So if they're not going to stop the run, I don't know how they're going to stop Saquon Barkley and the Eagles.
Yeah, I agree. I think Washington's playing with house money. They should be proud of where they are, because with the new ownership group, just this being their second year, going to an NFC Championship with a brand new coach, this is a great building block for them. But I do think that the Eagles they won't blow them out, but it'll probably be a closer game, I say like 10, but I think the Eagles get it done with Saquon on the ground. And it'll be an Eagles-Bills Super Bowl.
All right, Mark, you have Eagles-Bills in the Super Bowl. Luke, you have Eagles-Chiefs.
I have a Super Bowl 57 rematch.
I'm going to go lone wolf on the NFC Championship game. I think Jalen Hurts' knee injury, he's going to be too hampered, too limited. It's going to make the run game one-dimensional. And Saquon's still going to get his. He always gets his no matter what. But I think that Washington offense, like you said, firing on all cylinders, they're clicking. They're going to be able to score enough on this Eagles defense, which at times against the Rams didn't even look susceptible. They just looked bad at times against the Rams. I think Washington does enough. Jaden Daniels does enough. I'm going to take the Commanders.
Can you believe that?
That's Commanders Chiefs. That is crazy.
That's amazing.
If you said that preseason, the Commanders are a realistic shot to make the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
that's just the beauty of the NFL.
Who do you think wins it though? Who do you got? You got Commanders, Chiefs.
Chiefs. I said somebody's got to knock them off. But that's going to do it for this episode of Plead Your Case. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to stay tuned on our social media pages and our WCTV YouTube channel for more Waynesburg content.